The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
This is Orioles Preview. We do it every Wednesday. Orioles continuing their series with the Red Sox tonight at Fenway Park. First pitch at 7:10, coverage here 630, ESPN 630. And we're joined for the second time. We did this last year, and we had a nice conversation with Tim Cossins, who is the Major League Field Coordinator and catching instructor for the Orioles. And I was going to try to make you a newsbreaker here because until just a few minutes ago, Tim, it was in the reported stages that Jackson Holliday is going to make his Major League debut tonight. But the Orioles have made it official. So now I can ask you about it, and you can talk in confidence that the word is out. What are you expecting? Will he be in the lineup tonight? Do you know?
I would imagine he would be in the lineup. I'm not positive when that stuff will come, but I'm pretty sure it will happen, yes.
Yeah, and you've obviously been tracking him, the incredible start that he's off to in AAA. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and Mike Elias said that he hoped that he played his way onto the roster. Looks like he's done that.
Absolutely. He had a really nice spring, and he went and took care of business at Norfolk, and he's earned his way here. We're very excited about it.
And I know we talked about your job description last year, but in the words Major League Field Coordinator, you work in conjunction with Brandon Hyde about, who plays where and what. Is that pretty much how that works?
I think now I work in conjunction with every department, and it's kind of a funneling system. And I think once all the information gets in, I think I produce it in a way that's digestible for everybody. Yeah.
Okay, and then they get, and that is not just what position the player plays, but where he's positioned. Is that, did I have that correct?
Yes, the lineup stuff and all the day-to-day stuff comes from different departments, and it just kind of comes in a way that projects the next day, and then I produce it on paper, so to speak, and get it out to everybody, and kind of coordinate the days and what we're doing on the field and so forth. So it's just a lot of people have their hands in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's expected that Holliday is going to play second base, and this has been a discussion for the last year about Gunnar Henderson, whether he's a third baseman or a shortstop. Are you, as an organization, looking to have that combination on a long-term basis, that you don't have Henderson jumping back and forth, he stays at shortstop, and hopefully Jackson Holliday cements himself at second base?
To be honest, I think the only hope is that these two players are on the field for as long as possible together. I mean, these are really talented players. As far as where they play and all that stuff, that's not in my area. I just hope that these guys are on the field and healthy and producing and so forth.
Okay. We're talking to Tim Cossins, who is the Major League Field Coordinator and catching instructor for the Orioles. And we did talk last year when you guys were on your way to winning the division, but the journey, I think, is worth talking about again and reliving. You and Brandon are very, very close friends. You came in together in an organization that needed to be rebuilt in 2018. You went through the tough times, the 110-loss season. And when you clinched the division last year, it was noted the embrace that you guys had. Can you describe the feeling of what it was like after all you guys had been through with the Orioles and through your whole lives to get to that point of building the division winner like you did on that day?
Well, this was an unbelievably special moment. You start looking back and you start realizing how long we have been at this together and what we've done. And obviously we're personal friends as well, so you know where you come from and you know what this is all about, and you get to that point. We dreamed about this along the way as we cut our teeth as young minor league coaches. You just hope that you get an opportunity to do something like that. For that to happen is extremely special and a moment that I know we'll never forget.
Do you remember what either you said or he said at that moment?
I seen that video. I don't even remember what was said. I mean, honestly, it sounds cliche, but I don't remember running across the field. I just, yeah. If I video, I wouldn't remember anything. I have very funny memories of that whole evening. So I don't remember running across the field. I remember talking. I remember laughing. We were kind of laughing. I remember I was tired because I ran from the bullpen. I remember those things, but the specifics I don't actually remember.
Yeah, as you get older, the sprint from the bullpen to home plate gets a little longer, doesn't it?
Oh, it's long. When you get there, I hate to admit this, especially on air, but I was gassed. I gotta get on the treadmill.
Yeah. Well, they pay you to sit behind a computer and work in the bullpen and not not sprint. So there's that. Let's get to the next step, and the next step is obviously getting past the first round of the playoffs and deeper in, and ultimately to the World Series. You got a young roster. You got guys. Even your star catcher is very young in Adley Rutschman. What are the next step, and how do you make that leap?
Well, I think the next step is just to keep the process intact and constantly sharpen what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, and have these players take the next step physically and mentally on the field, and grow this team. Our teams, through this whole progression has been they've been one-offs, like rebuilding each time and kind of adding a little bit, and now it seems like it's going to be a situation where it's a little more consistent with the personnel, and these are all games that you can improve, and that's the beauty about the sport is you play so many games that you just have so many reps to tighten everything up, and then when we get in those big moments that you've rehearsed and perfected enough to where you can go out and perform on those huge stages and those massive moments and get the result that we're all hoping for.
Yeah, and, last year there was some concern about the week off between the end of the season and the start of the playoffs, and Brandon said, well, this team is really tired. They need the time off. But, we don't know if Russ contributed to it or not, but having gone through it as your young team did, how much do you think that helped them for what could hopefully this year be the next repeat of that? You might have another week off, but now you'd be prepared once you get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that just bleeds into experience, and when you've gone through it before and you know what to expect, you're obviously going to be a little more prepared for what possibly comes your way, and I don't think any of us enjoyed the outcome or how that felt. So I know that there was no complacency of any kind going in. I do know that. I just know that we'll be ready for that situation when it arises again.
No question. And then you've got your ace now, and your ace is pitching like an ace, as he got another great performance out of Corbin Burns yesterday. As you say, you spend most of the game in the bullpen. What does it mean to have a veteran out there like that, a former Cy Young Award winner, with the rest of your staff?
Well, it anchors everything, and it gives pitchers a blueprint of preparation. And I think as we go through the season, it's funny it's actually a really cool experience to watch teams grow, and having a guy like that and how he goes about his business and obviously his stuff. I mean, it just gives another perspective for our pitching staff. Mm-hmm. These guys have bonded very quickly, and I think you take a little bit from each guy that you come across, and hopefully those things stick with some of our other guys, and they create this thing on their own and take it to the next level.
Let me hit you with this. The other part of your title, catching instructor. The hot story right now in baseball is the elbow injuries that pitchers are suffering. The Players Association is indicating it might be because of the shortened pitch clock. In your role in working with the catchers and pacing the pitchers and working with them, what are your observations about the way the game is being played now?
That stuff, I honestly, that's a tough one for me because I don't really have an answer. Injuries are part of this game, and people are going to get injured, and I don't actually know the statistics on any of this stuff. I do know that tempo and all that's been something that we've been pushing from behind the plate for a lot of years. When you get a pitcher that's able to perform at a brisker pace and kind of setting the tempo of the game and pushing and pulling and those things, those were all used as tools in our bag to, suffocate an opponent, when you get a guy on the ropes and you're bearing down and so forth. But as far as, what it's doing to the pitchers and that stuff, I have no idea. I know there's a lot smarter people out there that will have opinions on that. You hate to see anybody injured, and you hate to see, guys missing time and so forth. And I don't have an answer to that one. It's a tough question.
Yeah, well, one of the things you hear is pitchers are throwing hard, but they're also working harder on the spin rate, which is putting more pressure on the elbow and the torque and all of that. Is that something that you can notice behind the plate that a pitcher is laboring on that? And, could you have Adley Rutschman go out and say, hey, back it off a little bit? I mean, does the dynamic work that way?
I don't think it works that way to the point where I think it would be very difficult to ask an athlete to throttle back on creating spin and so forth. I'm not positive it works that way, but you can, as a catcher, you can definitely see trends, and you can see when guys are overexerting or overthrowing or those things. But as far as creating, spin profiles and movement patterns, I think that's a little more difficult. I just think that's, the catcher's job is to identify when things are working and when things aren't working, and navigating a way to get back to it if it's not happening. But that stuff's very difficult to identify, and I don't know if there's anybody out there that can identify exactly what's happening in the game with that stuff.
And as we've talked about, you have the prize pupil to work with in Adley Rutschman. This is now year 3 for him. What have you seen in terms of growth, and what's the ceiling? Can he become, how close to Johnny Bench can he get, I guess is the way to put that. What do you think?
That's a massive question. I think that Adley Rutschman, his ceiling is very high. I think he'll be one of the best catchers in this game for a long time, and he has elevated everything from year to year. He's a tremendous worker. He's very prepared. He studies. What I love personally is I love to see him get kind of some salt, on his jersey, because I call him the workhorse now. He's getting in that phase where he's just pulling the mask down and going to work on a day-to-day basis. And he's got really good leadership skills, and he's working on that. He's just trying to improve everything. I love that about him. He's not complacent. He won't take a break on the work. He knows what he wants to work on. I'm enjoying this, on a selfish level. I'm enjoying this ride as well, working with a player that came to me as a fairly finished product. In the past, I developed catching, and this is my first time actually inheriting a guy that is almost a finished product, and so that's a unique experience. It's just been I've probably learned more from him than I have with most guys, and on how to handle. I've never watched a guy with navigate major league waters with star power, and that's another element. So it's been really, really enjoyable for me as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear these veteran pitchers talk about him, and how much they rely on him. As a guy's third year in the major leagues, pretty amazing how mature he is. Yeah,
he's very mature.
Hey, good to talk to you once again, Tim. Continued success with the Orioles, and we may catch up before the end of the season.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you. That's Tim Cossins, who's, again, Major League Field Coordinator and catching instructor for the Orioles. Coming up, we got Corbin Burnes talking about his great start yesterday and addressing what Tim and I talked about a little bit, and that is the number of injuries that are occurring for pitchers, and Burnes had some thoughts on that yesterday as well. We'll get to that as we continue. It's Orioles Preview. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
All right, this is Orioles Preview. Orioles continuing their series in Boston tonight. Coverage here at 6:30. Yesterday, a 7-1 win over the Red Sox, as Corbin Burnes is proving to be a tremendous offseason pickup. He's in the last year of his contract, former Cy Young Award winner with the Brewers, but he is off to a spectacular start at 2-0 with an ERA under 2, as yesterday he pitched 7 innings, gave up only 2 hits, 1 run in that first inning, and then settled down, retired 19 of the next 21 he faced, and was able to propel the Orioles to the 7-1 victory, talking to the media after the game.
Yeah, it took me till about the third inning to feel comfortable out there. For whatever reason, just first 2 innings, command wasn't right, didn't really spin the ball good. So about the third inning, we kind of locked it in, started making it a little better, got them off balance, started to get the punch outs there late. So for whatever reason today, it took me 2 innings to get comfortable. But once we did, Adley did a great job on the plate, mixing it up. Got a lot of weak contact, so it was good to get through 7 and good to get a win today.
Was it because this was your first time pitching here?
No, I mean, first time throwing here, their home opener. Really shouldn't have any effect on me. I'm going out there and going through my process as I would any other time. So for whatever reason today, it just took me 25, 30 pitches to kind of get in that groove. Ideally, you like to figure it out a little bit before that, but we were fortunate enough to make barely good enough pitches to get through those 30 pitches before we kind of locked it in.
So that's Corbin Burns after getting to 2-0 on the year. Brandon Hyde, the luxury of calling on a veteran like that and delivering like an ace like he did yesterday.
Oh, I mean, that was really good. Kind of a tough start for him there. We hung a breaking ball to O'Neill, but besides that, I mean, he gave up 2 hits through 7 innings, was in total command, pitching in a tight game. He punched out a bunch. It was just that's number 1 starter stuff right there.
Yeah, and concerned about the bullpen this year, and there will be injuries, but you like to have a good closer, and they got the closeout yesterday from Jacob Webb, but the setup guy was Danny Colombe, who has been unbelievable. He's pitched 5 innings, has given up 1 hit in 5 innings, and yesterday was perfect. He gave him a perfect 8th inning and got the kudos from his manager.
Yeah, has he given up? I don't even know what his numbers are. He hasn't given up anything, has he?
1 hit.
We'll take it. That was really good today. He's been unbelievable for 2 years, just 2nd year now. I've never put him in easy spots. He seems to always come through. If not, he's going to give everything he's got out there. He's such a gamer, such a pro. But with the multiple breaking balls that he has and be able to spin the ball, that's so unique. And so it's just such a tough look for a hitter, and throws a bunch of strikes with it, and he's doing a great job.
Yeah, 15 outs, only 1 hit given up so far this year. And back to the pitching discussion, and we did talk to Tim Cossins, one of the coaches for the team, in the last few minutes, and he does not have any answers for this. Corbin Burns is part of the Players Association, and the Players Association has been saying that they believe the pitch clock has had a lot to do with the elbow injuries. Burns unsure about that, not going to go against his union, but does has some thoughts on why these injuries have mounted up for starting pitchers.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You never want to see anyone get hurt, especially with at the rate guys are going down right now. I think we've got a problem in our game. MLB is going to tell you it's not pitch clock related. I would argue that injuries, long-term injuries are up the last 2 years, and the rate we're having injuries this year is nothing like we've ever seen before. So there's a problem. It's got to be fixed. You hate seeing guys go down. These are a lot of these are career-changing injuries for guys. So it sucks to see. We'll see what happens.
Have you felt any greater sense of fatigue with the shorter pitch clock this year compared to last year?
Not necessarily a difference from this year to last year, but from the last 2 years to years past, yes. As a starting pitcher, we're sprinting 100 times in a start. So to go out there and put a clock on us and limit the amount of time that you get to recover in between starts, it's going to have an effect on you. What that effect is, I don't know. But anytime you do anything that's an endurance type sport where your heart rate's elevated, shortening the recovery is going to have some repercussion, and I think we've seen it the last 2 years.
Yeah, they have, and it's really getting serious this year with big names, and everybody's keeping an eye on the Garrett Cole situation with the Yankees, whether or not he's going to need the Tommy John, but he's out for a couple of months with elbow soreness, so we'll watch that. But the Orioles continue the series tonight, and then they will head back home, which will be Friday. So they got tonight and tomorrow in Boston. Then they go back home. They've got a series against the Brewers, and that'll be followed by a series against the Twins. So they come home Friday, and they will stay home all the way through next Wednesday, the 17th, and then they're back on the road against Kansas City. Back to 6-4 on the year. The division is going to be A lot more competitive, I think, top to bottom than it was last year. Yankees in first place, 10-2. They're off to a great start. Red Sox just a game up, or half game up, as they beat the Red Sox yesterday. And remember, Tampa last year got off to that incredible start. They're now a last place team. They are now 5-7 on the year. And they did not run away with the division. But the big boys are back, the Red Sox and the Yankees, and we'll see how they sustain. The other big news for tonight, in case you have not heard, Jackson Holliday, they made it official, has been called up. So I would expect him to start at second base tonight. He's just been tearing it up for the Norfolk Tides. 10 games, hitting .333, 2 homers, 9 runs batted in, 5 doubles, 12 walks, and 8 strikeouts. And here's something else about this, which you may not be aware of. There's now incentive to bring these guys up early. It used to be that you would, and maybe it still works this way, but there's a new incentive on this. Like when Bryce Harper came up, they had to wait a certain amount of time before they would start the clock on a new year. Here's something they call prospect promotion incentive. And if you have a prospect on the roster for 172 days, and there are 187 on the calendar, so we're only 10 games into the season. Holliday, if he wins Rookie of the Year, then they get an extra first-round draft pick out of this. So there's a real incentive to bring him up, and if he is as good in the majors as he has been in the minors, he's going to win Rookie of the Year, as Gunnar Henderson did last year. He's expected to play second base and then team up with Gunnar Henderson at shortstop, so that would be a great combination there, with Henderson playing short and Holliday playing second base. Cal Ripken last year said about Henderson that jumping back and forth from third to short, he'd like him to stay at shortstop. And Henderson, very, very good. We've had a couple interviews with him last year, and I asked him about it both times. And he's not gonna say what he wants to do. He's good with whatever they do with him. He seems to be has a really good demeanor about him. But that could be the combination for years to come. That could be, who knows? I mean, could it be Mark Belanger and Davey Johnson? No, things don't work that way anymore. But when you're strong up the middle, that means a lot in baseball. So, again, it's a 7 o'clock start tonight, 6:30 pregame here on ESPN 630 with the Orioles trying to make it 2 in a row against the Boston Red Sox. We got Tony coming up next. I want to thank Rex Minturn for running the show. Thanks to Tim Cossins, one of the coaches for the Orioles, for joining us on Orioles Preview. And thanks to you for listening. See you tomorrow at 9 a.m.